So welcome, and we'll start, of course, with our bracha. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kitshanu B'mitzvotav V'tzivanu La'asok B'divrei Torah. And believe me, it's a privilege to be able to do that, period. So we are going to be looking at the Parsha of Balak. And let me see if I have it right here. There we are. And God willing, it's not, the pages aren't going to do what they did the last time when I opened this up. I'm back on this particular copy. So the Parsha of Balak is a very interesting Parsha, because essentially none of this is happening in the Israelite encampment. This is all a narrative about a third party or third and fourth parties. And so that sort of raises questions as to, so interesting, right? In other words, the Israelites aren't aware of all the narrative that we're going to be reading about. They have no clue whatsoever. This is all happening behind the scenes as far as the Israelites are concerned. And what I think it does, so I mean, that gives us an opportunity to say, well, so why is this portion in the Torah? And I think one reason is perhaps to make us aware of the degree to which how much Hashem actually takes care of us in ways that we have no clue, because the Israelites had no clue at this particular point of what God was doing on their behalf and preventing them from being cursed by.
Rabbi,
yes.
Is this the one that has a talking donkey?
I had a feeling you were going to ask that question. Yes, and I have to. Okay, I have a flip answer to that, question of doubt, etc. Okay, which is, so you mean to tell me you have never heard talking donkeys?
No.
I have.
Oh, okay.
Most of us have. That's a flip. I told you it was a flip answer. Okay. So yes, it's a great puzzlement, and there've been certainly attempts to try and rationalize it, etc. One could say that possibly this happened in a dream, other kinds of things. So we'll see if we even get to that point as we go over this. So understand the position. In the previous Parsha, we read about how the Israelites had overcome two nations, essentially the Amorites, who had tried to prevent them from entering the land of Israel. And the story goes is that the Amorites were, since they lived on the border, there had been an agreement that the Amorites would protect everyone else from the encroaching Israelites. And it also goes on to tell you how the Amorites had defeated other nations. They were really powerful, and yet the Israelites were able to overcome them. And so when they saw that force of arms was useless against the Israelites, Balak, the fellow who's right there, okay, decides he has to take a whole different strategy, that using conventional warfare is not going to work. And this is why he employs Bilam, who is this heathen prophet and has this reputation of being very, very powerful. And in fact, there are midrashim, I think, that compare the strength of Bilam's prophecy, perhaps to that of Moses, to come and curse the Israelites. That's his strategy. That since force of arms is of no use, conventional warfare, he's going to use unconventional warfare. So I see I have two comments, possibly. All right. Okay, some personal stuff there. That's a mazel tov, and that involves a mazel tov. So.
What was this Balaam? Was he a sorceress or something?
Yeah, I mean that's one way to describe him, but I think it may refer to ksamim later on, which are sorceries. The other little background, and perhaps Rashi's going to talk about this, is that when Isaac, going all the way back, right, to Isaac, he blesses Esau and Jacob. Okay, and he says, "Hayadayim yedei Esav, I think it's Hapeh, Pe Yaakov, something like that, where he says, like the hands are the hands of Esau, but the mouth is the mouth of Jacob." Right? If I'm not quoting it correctly, I'm pretty close. And there's a classic interpretation of that statement of Isaac's, which is to say that Esau's method of control, overpowering, etc., is through his hands. But the way that the descendants of Jacob are going to gain power in this world is through prayer, through their mouths. By the way, it's maybe the basis of the fact that many Jews are lawyers. Who knows? At any rate, here the Israelites have won through their hands. All right, and so Balak is going to try and do it through words. So we know, right? Because sometimes we say, right, the pen is mightier than the sword, because, as it says in the Dhammapada, for example, everything begins with a thought. So, just a little bit of background to this interesting parsha, and by the time we get to the end, which of course we aren't going to do ourselves in the little time that we have of this parsha, you recognize the incredible lack of appreciation on the part of the Israelites for all the blessings that God does. Because they're aware of a lot of them, but also the sense of how much God does for them, which they're just unaware of and don't necessarily want to be aware of. So, Vayar Balak ben Tzipor. So Balak, son of Tzipor, saw et kol asher asa Yisrael la'emori. This everything which the Israelites had done to the Amorites. Right. So this is the background that I was telling you about. Okay. Looking to see if there's any Rashi. It doesn't appear. Yeah, there is. This is the Rashi. Vayar Balak ben Tzipor et kol asher asa Yisrael la'emori. Amar, so he thought, not he said necessarily. Elu shnei melachim, these two kings, Sichon and Og, are mentioned in the previous parsha. Shehayinu betuchim aleihem, on whom we relied. Lo amdu bifneihem, they were not able to withstand them. They were not able to withstand the Israelites. Anu alachat kama v'chama, we who are weaker than them, how much the more so. The fichach vayagor Moav, and for this reason it says Moab was fearful. Maybe it doesn't, I don't know that it means necessarily panic, but it might mean something like that. Vayagor Moav, there it is. Mipnei ha'am ma'od. They let's just say they were feared, that the Moab feared on account of the people very much. Ki ravhu, for they were great in numbers. Vaya kotz Moav mipnei bnei Yisrael. So again, this could be closer to panicked, that Moab sort of almost, they were willing to give up on account of the Israelites, of the children of Israel. So Vayagor, Rashi explained, not a common word, Lashon Mora. It has the connotation of fear, Kamor Guru Lachem in Job, which would mean something to the effect of, you should be afraid. Vayakotz Moat. So here he says this is an abbreviation. So there's a phrase, Katzti b'chayai. In fact, he uses it right here, Katzti b'chayai. In other words, I'm ready to give up my life. I'm done, right? And he says, Katsu b'chayehem. They thought it was all over. Vahu mikra katzar. He says the fact that it says, let's make sure I'm pronouncing this right. Let me look up here. Yeah, vayakotz. Right, this would be a kamatz katan. Vayakotz. So he says, and kutsu. So there's a vav in there. So that's the or sound, the or family. So he just simply says the scripture is abbreviated. In other words, it means katsu b'chayehem, but it just doesn't write b'chayehem. So it doesn't say vayakutz Moav b'chayehem. It's just apocapated, I suppose we could say. So vayomer Moav el ziknei Midian, and Moab, the leaders of Moab, said to the Midianites, Ata, now yelachachu hakahal, this gathering of people, the Israelites, in other words, will lick at kol svivotenu, all our borders, all that surrounds us, kilechoch hashor, just as an ox licks up at yerek hasadeh, the green, the grass in the field, the green in the field. So my understanding is that when an ox grazes, essentially it uses its tongue to just rip out the grass. It doesn't cut the grass, it rips it out. Uvalak ben Tzipor, and Balak, son of Tzipor, so we're talking a little bit more about this guy, Balak Tzipor, Melech Moav ba'et hahi. He was king of Moab at that particular time. A lot of information the Torah is giving us here, including some interesting language. El Ziknei Midian. This is interesting. So Rashi comments on the fact that the Moabites were speaking to the elders of Midian. Elam, Rashi says, but for the longest time, going way, way, way back, Hayusonim ze et ze, one hated the other. They hated each other. The Moabites and the Midianites didn't get along. They were in constant battles against each other. Shene'emar, as it says, Hamakeh et Midian. This is back in Genesis chapter 36. Hamakeh et Midian, the one who smote the Midianites, Bistei Moav, in the field of Moab. And he's explaining what this means. Sheba'u Midian, that the Midianites came al Moav. They came upon the Midianites, the milchama, for battle. Ella miyir atan shel Yisrael. So now Rashi goes back now after making that point. He says, but from their mutual fear of the Israelites shel Yisrael, because both of them, they had a common enemy now. Asu shalom beinehem. They made peace between themselves. What's it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. All in the Torah. Umara'a Moav litol etza mimidian. Wait a second, Rashi says. What did the Moabites, what did they see to take advice from the Midianites? Why were they going to them for advice? Kevan shira'u et Yisrael. Once that is to say, the Moabites saw that the Israelites, notzchim, were in fact victorious, shelo keminhag olam, which goes against the way of the world. And I believe this is a reference to what I was telling you about the mouth is the mouth, the hands are the hands of Esau, and the mouth is the mouth of Jacob. Amru, okay, they said, min manhigam shel elu b'midyan nikadel. Oh gosh, they said the leader of this group of the Israelites grew up in Midian. Look at the literary connection, right? Nish'al mehem, we will ask of them, we'll consult with them. Ma midato, what are his qualities? We'll get to know the real deal on this guy. Amru lo, they said to him, so the Midianites said to him, Ein kocho ela befiv, his whole strength lies only in his mouth.
Rabbi,
yes.
Is Moses' wife a Midianite?
Yes. Tzipporah was from Midian. She was a Midianite, correct. Remember, she was Jethro, one of Jethro's daughters. And Jethro was a Midianite priest. Okay. Amru. So then they said to themselves, Af anu it's interesting, Navo Alehem. So they said, this is the Moabites figured it out. They said, we too will bring Alehem against them, but Adam with a man. In other words, we'll find an equivalent to Moses with a man, Shekocho Befiv, whose strength is in his mouth. It's really beautiful analysis, literary analysis of what the Torah is trying to tell us. Kilchosh Chashor. So this is going on with that verse, which it says, like an ox licks up. And this is from Bebiba Rabbah. Kolma Shehashor Melachech. Anything which an ox licks up, Ein bo siman bracha. There is no indication of blessing in it whatsoever. So just to explain the metaphor that they're using in describing the kind of damage the Israelites are going to do. Ba'etahi, at that time. So it's saying at that particular time. Why at that particular time? Lo haya ra'ui lemalchut. Okay. I want to make sure. Right. Okay. Why was he king of Moab at that time? Right? It wasn't fit for him to be king. Midyan haya. He was one of the princes of Midian. And remember, these two groups hated each other. And yet Balak is now their king, the king of Moab. But Kavan Shemet Sichon. But once King Sichon was dead, once he died, that was one of those Amorite kings, Minuhu Alehem Letzorach Sha'ah. They appointed him upon themselves for the needs of the moment. Right. It was an immediate need. Let's see if there's any. No, there we go. Onwards. Vayishlach Malachim, and he sent, so Balak sent Malachim. Notice the word Malach, which we usually translate as angels. But a Malach, essentially, the word Malach for in Hebrew essentially means agent. Right? In other words, we understand angels as being agents of God. So messengers, we're messengers. He sent messengers, El, to Bil'am, ben Beor, to Bil'am, son of Beor, Petorah, to Petor. That's where Bil'am lived. Asher al-Hanahar, which is on the river. And when it says the river, right, not the Yaor is the Nile, but the river, and also the fact that we've got Petorah, I would imagine that we're talking about the Euphrates River. Eretz B'nai Amor, the land of his people, Likro lo, to summon him, Lemor, saying, this is what he told him, Hine am yatsa mimitzrayim, behold, the nation that left Egypt, Hine kisa et ein haaretz, indeed, or behold, they cover the entire land. They're so numerous. Vehu yoshev mimuli, and he is dwelling opposite me. So this is all he said. He's going to go on and say some more. Okay. Let's go on. Let's see if we just go to the next sentence as well before we take a look at Rashi's. Va'ata, and now, lechana, please go, arali, curse for me, et ha'am hazeh, this nation. Ki atzum hu mimeni, because he is far more powerful than I am. Ulai, perhaps, uchal nakebo, I will be able to smite him, beat him, va'agarshenu min haaretz, and I will remove him, I'll chase him out from the land. Ki adati, for I know, et asher tevarech mevorach, anything that you bless is indeed blessed, va'asher ta'or, and that which you curse, you are, is cursed.
I think Balak, Rabbi, was afraid of the Israelites because they were so numerous
Yes.
that he had to have somebody to help him to weaken them. And he gets this sorceress. I don't know if God actually talked to Balaam. I think Balaam was a sorceress, and I don't think God talked to him. I don't think so,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Well, you're going to find out. Stay with us, and you'll discover. Okay. So, and again, that's interesting issues. Yes.
Good morning. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
We just read Ein Haaretz, and
Yes.
I know that Ein Hamayim is like the source of the Mima spring.
Yes.
Why do they refer to it as Ein Haaretz? Is it the same sort of thing?
Well,
or is it not the same word?
Well, it could be. Ma'ayan is, of course, the word for a source. And we do talk Ein Rogel, the spring of Rogel. It's a really great question, which I haven't really given much thought to in the past. Here when I think it says Ein Haaretz, I think it is talking about the eye. In other words, what is visible. In other words, you can't see the land because there are just so many of them. And it could be that the reason why it also has the meaning of a spring has perhaps something to do with the dependency that we have on our eyes. That our eyes are one way in which we connect to the physical world, something like that. I could be way off base. I'm just trying to.
It's interesting. That's all.
It is interesting. It is interesting.
The Targum has the word shimsha in there. It says,
it's the sun.
Chafa yad ein shimsha de'ara.
Yes.
So it sounds like sun.
It does. And it sounds like ein shimsha de'ara.
Right.
In other words, so chafa means to cover up, right? They cover up the appearance of the sun on the earth. In other words,
like they cast a shadow. They cast shadows.
Exactly. There's so many of them, right?
Cast the giant shadow.
Let's see, and let's see if Rashi is going to remember. We haven't looked at the Rashi yet, so we'll see if he deals with it. He may not, but let's see. Here it is. Hine kisei et ayin haaretz. Okay, there we go. It's good. It's good. He's going to give us. He's going to go in a whole different direction. It's great. We'll see. Okay, he's going to say it's a complete metaphor. Let's start the Rashi, I think. It's 5 to 8. I can stop here and we can just start with this. Please, God, start with.
No, continue. Please continue.
Well, okay. Okay. I will. Okay. So Torah, to Torah. Let's see if I can read this. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to read this word. I'm having a hard time recognizing this word. So keshe. Wow. Keshulchani hazeh. Sorry, this is a lamed, and it looked like a nun. Keshulchani means the money changer. Right? Like this money changer, hazeh, shehakol meritzim lo, where everybody runs to him, ma'ot, they present him with money, kach kol hamalachim maritzin lo, so similarly, all the all the kings offer him, I believe is the way to translate that, lo egrotehem, their coins. Just like so when you were dealing right with these small little countries, one to another, the money changers were very important. They had to change your money so that you could deal with these people. Ulafib shuto. So he's explaining Torah as a midrash, right? Ulafib shuto. But according to the plain meaning of the text, shel mikra, of scripture, kach shema makom. That's the name of the place, Tupator. Okay. I'm not, you'll have to forgive me, I am not familiar with a connection between Pator as a money changer. I'm not sure what the connection might be. Shirabeth, I know you have a dictionary And maybe there's some kind of explanation there.
Yeah. Well, I have what's in my hand now, though, is the translation of Rashi.
Yes.
And he says, because he was like a money changer before whom everyone lays coins.
Right.
And then he's referring me to an appendix for the meaning of, with a note for coins. Similarly, all the kings used to send them their letters asking for his advice. However, according to the literal sense of the text,
Sorry. Yes.
this
Yes.
is the
Yes.
name of the place. So should I look at the note? I'm going to look for that note.
You can, and I'm sorry, I mistranslated. I was seeing igrotehem as agurot, right? And it's igeret is a letter. Okay.
But he's saying everyone lays coins. Yeah, he says coins.
Really? Isn't
Silverstein
that
says
interesting?
coins. Silberman, I mean, says coins.
Yeah. Okay. I'll put letter. So God is being kind to me this morning. Okay. Okay.
But as far as this note here, he says in Aramaic,
Yes.
pator means a table, being the equivalent of the Hebrew
Yeah.
shulchan, and a
Okay.
money changer is a
That's
patora.
right. Yes.
In Hebrew, it's a shulchanai.
Right. Shulchan is a table, right? That's fabulous.
Right, but
Thank
so
you.
is a
That
pator.
is so helpful. Well, that's so helpful. Thank you. That's totally helpful. Great. Great. That note is very helpful. Okay. Okay. So it's based on the Aramaic. Okay. Let me make this slightly smaller. Let's see what I can do.
Does now I've always heard about and haven't really read or studied
Yes.
about Jesus throwing the money changers from
indeed,
the
at the
temple. Did that
temple.
have to do with tables?
Yes, they would. You know why a banker is called a banker? Banker is from bench. They sat at a bench. So the reason why there were money changers in the temple was that people came from all around, from all these different countries, and they had to buy their offerings if they wanted to make an offering, and they wanted to make an offering. In order to buy the offering, they had to exchange the money. So I think though that the idea of the money changes is, at least on the simple level in terms of the New Testament, there is just how commercial the spiritual practice of the temple had become. That essentially, I think the point is his objection to the commercialization of the temple service. And that was the idea of his overturning the table so that they couldn't do that. On a practical level, it might not have been the best idea in the world, but I think in terms of the narrative there and the literary element of things, that's what it's trying to explain, right? That he so couldn't stand how commercial things had gotten, where it should have been a religious place. All right. Yeah, very good. Thanks, Lisa. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. All right, we should get started. So let me make the little let me put the thanks. So I mean, that is so enlightening, that knowing that translation.
I plan to be here tomorrow, and then maybe even Tuesday, and then after that we travel to the States.
Oh, how exciting.
Yes, so actually our first week there's no way I'm going to be able to come to the shiur, but because we'll be with our grandchildren, maybe right. Hopefully after that.
Right, and the truth is, I know the beauty of it is if you're going to be in Minnesota, is it Minnesota? You're going to Minnesota?
Well, the grandchildren, the first stop is to my daughter and son-in-law in North Carolina.
Okay, so you'll only be 3 hours ahead of us.
Right, and then after that, we'll be in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and
that's 2 hours ahead of us.
Things probably will settle down enough so I can come back.
Okay,
But I'll miss.